shop just outside of Kennesaw here in North Georgia. Well, today's project is going to be this mid-century modern bedroom set. It consists of two pieces. This piece here, which I think may be called a gentleman's cabinet or something, basically it's just a chest of drawers with a couple of drawers behind the door. And then behind me is a matching triple dresser. I picked these two pieces up last week from a very, very nice woman who was going through some changes in her life and was downsizing her home. These had been in her husband's family for as long as anyone can remember. I would estimate it's probably from the early to mid-60s. The furniture appears to be unmarked. It does look like Broyhill emphasis, but the hardware on the drawers appears to be different. I know there were major manufacturers of furniture that did unmarked pieces and slightly altered pieces for, you know, different furniture distributors, or it could just be a copy of a popular style. I really have no idea, but the style is popular now. This American mid-century modern walnut stuff seems to be selling fairly well. Personally, I prefer the Danish modern, more airy, lighter teak mid-century modern furniture, but this is good stuff to have and to resell, and it's certainly worth refinishing. Both pieces appear to be in fairly good condition. There's some legs that need to be tightened up and some little issues with the drawers and some chips and dings and veneer issues that we'll deal with. But the main problem with these two pieces is the finish, which is basically completely worn off, and I'll bring you in and show you that here now. And here's the top of the gentleman's chest, and you can see this finish is just gone. There's a water stain there, and it looks like another watermark here. We have a missing piece of, and this is really just a very, very thin decorative piece of banding. We're going to be a little bit challenged to inlay a piece of walnut veneer in there that thin, but we'll get it done. We have a chip here in the front that's going to have to be filled. We'll fill that with epoxy. Inside we have some wear marks, and then you can see here where the finish is worn, and that's because these hinges have worn. And I'm really not sure what I'm going to be able to do with those to tighten those up, but we'll see what we can do. I'm sure I could find replacement hinges, at least that would of a similar style, but it would be a bit of a challenge. So you can see, if you can see here, right here, there seems to be a rivet that acts as the pin, and I think over the years the rivet has worn the ring out a little bit. We'll see what we can do with that. And then, of course, we have finish wear on the inside where the drawer, you know, someone would open the door halfway, someone would open the door halfway and then do one of these. But all in all, not in terrible shape. And looking at the triple dresser, and you can see that the finish on the triple dresser is even worse. You know, it's just worn. It's, you know, it's close to 70 years old, and every morning it got used, and this is what happens. It's not a big deal. The drawers are all wood, dovetail construction as you would expect, and you know, normally you'll see a manufacturer's. If you're going to see a manufacturer's mark, it's very often in the top left drawer on the inside. But my cursory examination of this didn't show a maker's mark. Now, some of these were, of course, labeled with paper labels that would fall off, so I just don't know. And again, we have, you know, little chips and dings and finish issues all around. But in order to get, and we have 3 drawers inside. And in order to get these restored, the first step is to strip them. A little bit of a tip for you when you're working with big pieces of furniture with so many drawers: you can easily run yourself right out of the shop when you start taking things apart. So what we'll do is we'll just set this dresser aside for now, and we will work on the gentleman's chest, and when that's completely stripped, we'll put the drawers back in it, and then we'll put that aside, and then we'll work on the dresser. Because if I pull this all apart at once, I'm going to be working outside because it's just not enough room. So it's a beautiful day here in North Georgia. It's going to be a hot one, but let's get to stripping. Three and a half hours to get this all stripped off. The piece is in relatively good condition. We don't have much in the way of veneer damage or loose veneer. A couple of chips we'll take care of. And all I've got to do, so our left on this, is to lacquer rinse it and water wash it and let it sit. Here are the doors, and interestingly enough, the toughest finish on the entire piece were the doors and the legs, and the doors in here had an opaque dark brown glaze in them, so we'll have to make sure we replicate that in some way, shape, or form. But I've got a couple repairs to do on these doors. There's a chip on that one, and then we've got to do this veneer repair here. Okay, let's move on to the veneer repair. You're going to have to put up with the sound of the fan. I am just dripping with sweat, and I got to get this shop cooled down. But anyways, here's the piece of veneer that's damaged. It's broken from here to here and from here to here. We have two ways that we could fix this. We could cut a 45 here, cut a 45 here, and then inlay two shorter pieces of veneer in there. Or because this is a thin straight piece, we can take this right off and replace it with a single straight piece so we don't have any seams. That's what I'm electing to do, as long as I can cut a piece of veneer off of my old walnut veneer sheet that I have. Let me get that for you. This came off of, I believe it was an old radio cabinet from about 1920. It was just destroyed. I wound up making a new top for it out of solid walnut. But this was the veneer that was on it, and if you look at this here, you're like, oh, that doesn't even look close. But if you flip it over, it's very close. So if we get this on and we can get it nice and flat, we'll just have to sand off some of that color and it'll be fine. Now this is brittle. It's about the same thickness, but I'm going to try to cut me a nice straight piece of this that I can use for this veneer repair.
morning. It's a beautiful day here in North Georgia. Let's go in the shop and see how we've done. Here's our Veneer Repair. It came out really well. The color in the veneer strip that we used is fairly deep in spaces, so rather than try to sand all that out, I'm going to see how that looks like after we color everything. I think it'll be fine. I don't want to run the risk of sanding through this veneer and chasing color with it. It actually may be grain. Got one spot here where we had some damage when we took up the old veneer. I'm going to sand that a little bit more, and then we'll just take care of that when we put the color on. But there we go. That's how we did it. Like I say, I always save old veneer and old wood. You never know when you're going to use it. From 1920 to a piece that was made in the early 60s. It's the same piece of wood. So here we are. She's all stripped down. Any of the little repairs that needed to be done have been taken care of. And it's ready for finish. Now don't forget, right behind it we have that triple dresser that needs the exact same treatment. So what I'm going to do is set this aside as it is, get that triple dresser stripped, handle any repairs that might be there, and then I'll bring you back and we'll start to finish these. Hey, welcome back. It's been 2 days since we last were together in the shop. When you last saw me, I was finishing up this piece, and then the next day I finished that piece and stripped the carcass of this piece. This is a 6-foot triple dresser. I then this morning got up early and stripped all the drawers of the dresser and got both pieces sanded. Did that outside. So we're going to start by putting some color on this piece. I'm going to be using Mohawk's wiping stain. It's an oil-based wiping stain. The color is medium brown walnut, and I will show you up close how I do it, and then I'm just going to get to it. And once this piece is all done and I've got it all put back together, then I'll turn my attention to this piece and do it the same way. Applying a wiping stain is fairly straightforward once you've got your surface prepped, which basically in this case is stripped and obviously lacquer washed, water rinsed, and sanded and dusted off. Just apply your stain. I like to use a foam brush. You can use a rag to apply it if you want, whatever works for you. Coloring the underside of the drawer fronts is entirely up to you. Most of them will come from the factory uncolored. Alright, and once it's applied, then you just wipe it off. There's always a big question of how long do you leave it on. And I'll be honest with you, and maybe I'm wrong, but I found that once it's on for couple of seconds, you're pretty much going to get as much color as you were going to if you leave it longer. So let's take a look at what we've got in comparison to an undone drawer. And that's all there is to it. This stuff will supposedly dry in an hour and can be sealed within an hour. Because it's so humid and hot out and it's getting late in the day, I'm just going to color this and leave it overnight. But that's what we're going to do. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drawers, more, and then we've got the doors, and then we've got the case, and then we've got to do the dresser. So we're going to be here for a while. But that's how we do it, and I'll bring you back when I'm done. And here they are with a single coat of oil-based wiping stain on them. We'll start laying on top coat sealers tomorrow. Good morning. Just to bring you up to speed, all the pieces have been sanded and shot with a coat of sealer and then sanded. So the stain job came out very nice, and we are working on getting ready to shoot a coat of toner on these pieces prior to top coating them. I had a question from a viewer regarding mixing toner, so let's take a few minutes and talk about that. Hey, I had a question from a viewer on mixing toner. Every time I've shown it, I've kind of shown it in an informal way, talk about a smidgen of this, a smidgen of that. The reason I do that is because that's how I mix it. I'm like an Italian grandmother trying to describe how she makes tomato gravy. It's a little bit of this, a pinch of this, maybe some of this. So I apologize for that. So the question then became, well, is there a standard mix or a place for someone who's just learning to start? And I went on the internet, and there's a really, really good article on woodweb.com authored by Paul Snyder. And if I remember, I'll link it in the description, but if not, Paul Snyder is responsible for this information, and it's really, really good. We talk about 3 different types of toners. The toner that I have used on this channel, and the only toner that I've used in this channel that I've made, is basically a clear toner. That's a clear top coat material with color in it. The analogy I've always used is like a layer of colored glass. I'm putting a layer of colored glass down on the furniture. I'm going to build it up with clear layers and more colored layers until I get it the way I want. There's also opaque toners. If you think about like 1920s Depression era furniture with that, we used to call that molasses finish. This is a toner, a top coat that has opacifiers in it or pigments in it. And you can mix these, I am told, I have never done this, by mixing an oil-based stain into a lacquer-based toner product, as long as you don't go any more than 5%. Now, I've confirmed this with my distributor downtown, and he says, yeah, you can mix an oil stain with a lacquer toner body, which I'll talk about, as long as you keep it down to 5%. This apparently produces an opaque finish, and if that's what you're looking for, that's the way to go. You can also just mix color in there, and most of the large distributors can mix you what's basically lacquer paint. I've used white and black here. It's just basically lacquer paint. It goes on like lacquer. It is lacquer, but it's got all sorts of pigments in it, so you can't see through it. So those are the 3 types of toners you can use. We're going to talk solely about the toner that I use, which is the clear stuff. Now, I use lacquer as my base, and I mix lacquer thinner, a little bit of lacquer, and some acetone-based dye. You can use any acetone or lacquer compatible dye. You can use Transtant, you can use whatever you want as long as it's compatible. You don't have to use the bottles of Mohawk stuff. I use it because that's what's convenient for me. The classic mix for making that, and I'm going to refer to Paul Snyder's article on WoodWeb, is to make a dye toner, 28 ounces of lacquer thinner, add 1/2 to 2 ounces of dye. Now, you're going to have to adjust the color as you see fit. I mean, if you're using Transtant and you put 2 ounces of Transtant in there, it's going to be super, super dark. So use that, use your judgment when you mix the color, depending on the color that you're using and what you try to accomplish. Now remember, if you go too dark, once you put it on, you're done. You've got to take it off if you want to lighten it up. Also, when the toner is dark, when you spray it, where you overlap, sometimes you can get stripes, or God forbid you get a run, and then your piece is going to look like that Huntley chest of drawers we just did the video on, the Petitioner's Exhibit 1, where those drips get real dark because they have a lot of color in them. So use your judgment, mix the color where you want it. You can always put multiple coats on to get the color where you want it. But it's 28 ounces of lacquer thinner, 1 to 2 ounces of dye, as long as it's, in this case, acetone based, and then 4 ounces of lacquer. So 28 ounces of lacquer thinner, 4 ounces of lacquer, and then color. 28 to 4 is a little bit less than 5 to 1, right? It's about 6.5 to 1. So 4 ounces of lacquer. A shot glass is 1.5 ounces. So 2.5 shot glasses of lacquer in 28 ounces of lacquer thinner, and your color in that will give you a quart of the lacquer toner. So I hope that helps you answer whatever question you had on mixing. So that's according to Paul, that's what you want to do. I still do it based just upon how I feel, and I've had okay luck with it, good luck with it, so whatever. Remember also, you can make toners with stuff other than lacquer. You can use polyurethane. You can't use trans tint dye because it's not compatible with oil-based polyurethane. But I believe you can put some oil stain into polyurethane, and you could use that. You can also do it with shellac. Shellac will take the trans tint. It'll take the acetone-based dye. And I used a shellac toner on the Roos cedar chest. If you look at that video towards the end, I toned it with that. So that's all there is to toners, but to get to the heart of the question, 28 ounces of lacquer, 1.5 ounces of dye, depending on how dark you want to get it, and 4 ounces of lacquer. 28 lacquer thinner, 4 lacquer, and then your color. And then you'd be where you want to be. And let's get going. I'll mix some lacquer toner up, and we'll start to tone these pieces. Okay, I hope this works here. Now remember, this is the Italian grandmother method. When I'm eyeballing, I don't need a filter for this, I'm eyeballing how much toner I think I'm going to need. I don't like to waste material, but the last thing you want is to run out of toner in the middle of the project. So I'm going to go with quite a little bit, pretty close to filling that gun right up. And I believe that's a quart, which is what we've been using as our mixing guy. So there's the lacquer thinner. For those of you that follow the book, let's say there's 28 ounces in there. Now we're going to add 4 ounces of lacquer. And then our color. And remember, this is an acetone based dye that I buy. You can mix your own, you can buy a different brand, it doesn't matter. And honestly, this is a little darker than I had hoped. That's what I get for paying attention to the mixing. But there you go. That's what you're going to be spraying on. And I will set you up so you can watch me spray one of the drawers. And then I'm going to get on to getting the rest of this work done.